Peruvian chicken or pollo peruano, simply known in Peru as pollo a la brasa, is a crazy delicious whole marinated chicken in spices and herbs and roasted until golden brown. I'm also thinking I may serve it up with a classic Peruvian sauce to make seriously one of the most flavorful dishes out there. You know the rules. Let's start off with the prep. Sound good? Let's cook. In a medium saute pan, I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon each of cumin seeds and coriander seeds. Then I'm taking it over to the cooktop, and over low to medium heat while stirring occasionally, we are going to toast up these seeds for about 7 to 8 minutes. This process will allow the seeds to release a little bit of their oil and make them more aromatic and in return, more flavorful. And even before you remove the pan from the burner, use your hand and just waft some of those aromas toward yourself. Let's get the senses rolling early here in this recipe. Now I'm going to be making this entire marinade using a mortar and pestle. So let's add our toasted seeds in there. Now grab our pestle and gently but firmly press and rotate it, twisting it around the base of the mortar to grind everything down. It's totally okay if there are a few chunks in here. And if you want to be a good steward of what's already in your cabinets, you can absolutely sub out with already ground spices. Of course, don't toast them, add them right to the mortar. Now this recipe is heavy on garlic, so I'm adding in 12 whole garlic cloves. Then I'm adding in about a ½ inch chunk of peeled fresh ginger. Then again, using that pestle, mash the garlic and the ginger into the spices and begin to grind it down until they are incorporated. And obviously you will still have a little bit of chunks in here from the garlic and ginger. It's totally fine. Just doing this pestle process in the mortar will help them release all of their flavors for our marinade. And Comies, the next 2 ingredients that would traditionally go in here may be a little bit difficult to find. The first one is called huacatay. This is Peruvian black mint, obviously hard to find fresh here in the United States, but it has flavors of fresh mint and cilantro. Now you can purchase this on Amazon like I did. You also may be able to find it at a local Latin grocery store. However, the substitute, easy. 3 leaves of fresh mint, totaling about 1 teaspoon ground down. Now for cilantro, remember I already have coriander in there. That's going to cover that flavor. Now the other one is known as ají panca. Ají just means chili pepper. Now what you can do is pick this up on Amazon, or you can try to find it at a local Latin grocery store, or you can also buy the dried whole version of a panca chili pepper. If not, because I really want you to make this recipe because it's so good, just substitute for an ancho chile. Okay, you can find these at just about any grocery store. Let me show you how to prep it up. What you're going to want to do is remove the stem and then get all of the seeds out of that ancho chile. Now you'll have to rip open the chile a little bit, totally fine to do so. Then once it's completely seeded, let's add it to a small saute pan. It's going in a middle rack in the oven at 275 degrees Fahrenheit for only 15 to 16 minutes. We want to dry it out so that it will easily grind down in our mortar. But let's not waste any prep time while the chile is in the oven. We're going to need about 1 tablespoon of fresh rosemary. However, this will not grind down that well using a pestle. So I'm going to pull the leaves right off the stem, and using a chef knife, I'm just going to finely mince it. Once it is finely minced, let's add it right to our mortar. Now let's just go back to the oven, pull out our ancho chile, and let it cool slightly to room temperature, which only takes a couple of minutes. And just after that time, you'll see how crunchy it has become and how easily it is going to break down. So let's add that again right to our mortar. And using that pestle, let's grind it down into all the other ingredients. And as you can see, we have a nice thick paste at the bottom of our mortar. And just to quickly add, if you do have the huacatay, you would add in 1 tablespoon. And if you have the ají panca, you'd add in 1.5 tablespoons. Now at this stage, I'm going to add in 3 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. Then I'm adding in a 1/4 cup of olive oil. You could also substitute for any neutral flavored oil if you'd like. Then last but not least, 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. Yes, believe it or not, soy is definitely used in Peruvian cuisine. Then just using your pestle, rotate it around the mortar in a circular motion just to combine that paste with all of the liquid we just added. Now this part is incredibly important. Use a spoon and taste it. It should be full of flavor. Remember, we're using this to season up and marinate our chicken. We're not drinking it straight. It should be slightly over salty, over garlicky. If it's not, add more salt, add more garlic. Let's briefly set it to the side, and then I'm going to pull out one whole roasting chicken. This weighs in between 3.5 and 4 pounds. Now, classically, a pollo a la brasa is a whole roasted chicken, so that's what I'm going to use in this recipe. Now, when it comes to whole chickens, I do like to rinse out the inside cavity because I don't know how long things have been sitting in there, and I just want to get any of that liquid out of there. Once it's thoroughly rinsed, I'm just going to use some paper towels, and I'm going to pat it down very well on the outside and, of course, the inside cavity. And if you want, you could skip all this and simply purchase a whole air-chilled chicken. And once the chicken is patted dry, I'm just going to transfer it over to a large bowl. And from there, I'm going to pour in all but about 2 to 3 tablespoons of the marinade. Don't worry, I'll tell you what we're going to do with that in just a minute. Then using your hands, rub this marinade all over this chicken on both sides, especially in the cavity. Get some underneath the skin as well. Doing stuff as simple as massaging all these flavors into this chicken is just going to pay dividends in our final result. Now, because the marinade will be at the bottom of the bowl no matter what you do as it sits, I'm going to flip it over and put it breast side down because after all, that's where most of the meat on the bird is. And because my wife and daughter really only like the breast meat, I'm going to let them have the most flavorful part. Then we're just going to cover it in plastic wrap.
And sure, you could probably get away with a 4-hour marinade on this, but when it comes to marinating, flavor comes with time. If you're asking me, anywhere from 12 hours all the way up to 72 hours. Those flavors need time to marry and incorporate and infuse in that chicken. 4 hours, okay, you might get a little bit of that, but if you marinate this thing for a few days, oh my gosh, so much better. Sure, do you have to plan ahead? Of course, but I promise you it's worth it. You gotta do it.
Now just transferring our chicken into the refrigerator, I'm going to let it sit overnight. Now remember that remaining 2 to 3 tablespoons of marinade? Well, we're going to use it at the very end. So just scrape it to the side in a little container and place it in the refrigerator as well. Now, when your chicken is done marinating, so day 2, let's take it out of the refrigerator, take off the plastic wrap. It looks great, and as soon as you take off the plastic, you're going to get a douse of delicious aromas from that marinade. So we're going to let it sit for about 30 minutes just to take the chill off, and in the meantime, we are going to preheat our oven up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, fan off, so no convection. Now, the other option is going to be on the grill. So we are going to heat just one side of the grill up to high heat, and then on the other side is where we're going to place our chicken. Now, really quick, classically, a pollo a la brasa is done on a rotisserie. So guess what? If you have a rotisserie, that's what I want you to use. But for the rest of us who only have an oven or a grill, this one's for you. What I'm going to do is flip the chicken over, and we want to stabilize it a little bit so it's not rocking around. So we are going to tuck both wings behind the bird just like this. And then what we want to do is tie the drums together just using some butcher's twine. We're going to wrap it underneath the right drum and over top of the left drum and simply pull it together. This will help them stick, and then just tie them in a knot just like you're tying your shoe. Perfect. Now, the best way to roast this is in a pan on a rack. It does not much matter what kind of pan you use. You can use a rondeau with a round rack, or you can use a simple 13x9 roasting pan with a rack in the bottom. Either one will totally work for this recipe. Now, if you don't even have a rack, but you still have a 13x9 casserole dish, this will still work. I thickly sliced 2 yellow onions, and you can place them right in the center and set the chicken right on top. Now we are going to add some liquid to the pan, and I don't want the chicken to be sitting in it. I want it to be lifting off, and these onions will work well. Plus, they'll add some really nice flavors to the chicken. Now I'm going to use my rondeau pan, well, because you know me, I love that rondeau. Placing the chicken right in the center, and of course, use your hands or rubber spatula and scrape all that marinade right onto the chicken. Come on, don't skip out on that flavor. Then I'm going to pour in 2 cups of chicken stock right to the bottom of the pan.
Now you could of course just use water or brodo will work, or even vegetable stock. This is to help steam bake it and try to replicate that juicy moist chicken you get when it comes right off the rotisserie. So you can do one of two things: in the oven on a middle rack at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for in between 70 to 75 minutes, or until it reads about 162 or 163 degrees Fahrenheit in the thickest part of the bird. Or you can cook it on the grill on that indirect heat side where there is no direct flame underneath, and cook it for that exact same time, 70 to 75 minutes. Now we've obviously got some time while the chicken cooks, and remember I said I wanted to serve it up with a classic sauce? That's right, we're gonna make something known as ají verde, or Peruvian green sauce. So in a blender, I'm adding in 1 cup of mayonnaise. I've got an awesome homemade recipe if you want to use that. Next, I'm adding in 1 tightly packed cup of fresh cilantro leaves and stems. Remember, there's a lot of flavor in those stems. Next, I'm adding in 3 green onions, the whites and the green parts. Then I'm adding in 1 each seeded jalapeno and serrano pepper. Now I'm adding in a 1/4 cup of queso fresco. Another great option would be cotija cheese. Then I'm going to squeeze in the juice of 1 lime, which is going to equal about 2 tablespoons. Next, 2 whole garlic cloves. Then I'm drizzling in 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And remember the huacatay I talked about when marinating the chicken? Well, we're going to pull that out and add in 1 tablespoon of it. And if you do not have this, you can substitute for 5 to 6 large fresh leaves of mint. And this next ingredient, which is optional but also very classic, is known as ají amarillo, which is a hot yellow pepper paste. We're going to add in 1 tablespoon of it. And while it does look like baby food a little bit, it's absolutely delicious. All right, let's generously season it up with some coarse salt. Then we are going to blend it until it is completely smooth, just like this. It will have wonderful, bright, vibrant colors. And just like everything else, grab a spoon and taste it. Does it need more salt? You have to be the judge here. Now, just to give our chicken a look, it's been about 35 minutes. We're about halfway through. You can see it's pretty golden brown here. Now, if this is making you a little nervous at this stage, what I want you to do is take about a 2-foot sheet of foil, crimp it in the center, and just drape it over the top. This is called tenting, and it will prevent your chicken from over browning. And once your chicken is done, let's pull it out. Looks amazing. We're gonna let it rest for 10 to 15 minutes. And during that time, it's gonna rise above that 165 degrees Fahrenheit internally. And the smells alone in here will push you to make this. Such a great balance of flavor as well. It's zesty, salty, it's got some nice acid from the lime juice, earthy tones from the cumin. I'm telling you what, this is a must make. Still goes back to those fundamental classic cooking techniques though, making sure you're marinating for plenty of time, getting that roast just right. I'm telling you, it is awesome. I'm fogging up a little bit because of the hot chicken, but let me show you how I plate this up. So I've got that remaining 2 to 3 tablespoons of our marinade. I heated it up slightly over low heat just to warm it up and take the chill off of it. I'm going to generously brush the chicken on all sides. Then I'm just going to serve it up on a sheet tray lined with parchment paper. Then, of course, let's not forget about our ají verde Peruvian green sauce. So good. Then, just going to finish it with some limes. Starting to get antsy and hungry. Let's get in this. Now, traditionally, Peruvian chicken would be served up with like a pommes frites or fried potatoes. However, if you want to take it a step further, definitely check out my Peruvian beans. The flavors are incredible. And as always, you can get all of my recipes over at billyparisi.com, plus imperial to metric conversions just for you. For now, I'll see you over on that Peruvian beans video.